Welcome to episode 8 of 22-Man Game with Jared and Damon. I'm Jared. That's Damon. It is 8:22 p.m. Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. On the heels of an eventful week 2 of NFL action. Damon, how are you?
I am doing all right. Thank you for asking. A little tired today, a little fatigued. I told you before about my sleeping troubles. And perhaps the fact that Monday Night Football doubleheader, the second game started at 9 p.m. and ended at midnight. So I don't blame myself for that. I'm dedicated to the craft, so I had to stay up and watch a riveting game between the Chargers and Raiders, that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. But other than that, can't complain too much. How about yourself?
I don't know. I thought the NFL was pretty courteous by making sure the 9 p.m. game was an absolute snoozer. Um, I I'm fine, getting through just another week, starting to try to build on this new rhythm with this new part-time work thing going on. Mourning the fact that I lost in fantasy by 1 point. Thanks, Gino.
It's
Just
always
needed you to
tough.
hit Brock Bowers one more catch for Brock, maybe. That's okay. Excited to get into our thoughts from week 2 and preview week 3. But first, there is a lot of news to go over that will affect multiple teams' seasons, some of them in the short term, some of them perhaps defining their year.
Yeah, football, contact sport, believe it or not. Lots of injuries occur, and some we have seen before for some of these players, some we have not. Obviously, we hope everyone is back and healthy as soon as possible.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's unfortunate to be at a point now where you're going to have fans starting to ask what if about an entire year of football. I think that really only applies to one team right now, but we'll see based on the timeline of some injuries. Let's go ahead and jump into those to start. We'll begin with an injury that took place before the week slate of games. That was Cowboys corner Deron Bland suffering a right foot injury in practice that will keep him out for a few weeks. Um, Definitely, after getting carved up this week, probably would be a welcome return to the secondary at some point.
Yeah, they definitely need that guy for sure. Aside from him, though, a lot of quarterback injuries that have occurred. I guess we can kind of go least serious to serious, perhaps. Um, we are hearing Jayden Daniels had a knee sprain for the Commanders and is questionable for this week. We haven't had a huge update on that. He didn't exit the game or have a backup finish or anything like that. This was just kind of an after the fact thing, Thursday night football course last week. So hopefully he is good to go on Sunday.
Having a little extra rest will hopefully help. I feel like this injury occurred late in the game. I don't know if you were watching all the way to the end, but I think he came up limping in like the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter when the game wasn't out of reach technically. But if you had said, like, hey, let's just run out the clock, I might have understood, just
Hmm.
based on how the two teams were playing. So hopefully doesn't keep him out next week. Granted, not the most stiff competition next week, but still unfortunate. In pet players for this podcast news, quarterback Justin Fields is in concussion protocol for the Jets, which puts him around questionable, similar to Jayden Daniels this week as well. Of course, in the scope of the season, the Commanders are expected to have more of an impact on the playoff picture than the Jets, but nonetheless, for a team looking to build some potential momentum and maybe start to find themselves under a new coach, always difficult when you have to rely on a backup.
Yeah, and for the life of me, I cannot remember. Oh, it's Tyrod Taylor. That
It
is
is
the
Tyrod Taylor.
Jets' backup quarterback. I just remembered. But Justin Fields, you mentioned, hyped on this podcast in preseason. That hype looked amazing in week 1. It did not look so good in week 2. Um, 3 for 11, I believe, the stat line that's ringing around in my brain before exiting in the fourth quarter. 11 pass attempts. Yikes.
That is miserable. Worth mentioning as well for the Commanders, their quarterback backup is Marcus Mariota. Uh,
Legend.
famously featured on season 1 of Netflix's Quarterback. Uh, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah. And of course, famously the first overall pick for the Tennessee Titans, selected before Jameis Winston, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
I'm pretty sure Jameis was also the first overall pick in his
oh,
respective draft.
I'm sorry. I think what it was is I think Jameis was first, Marcus was second. I think that's what it was. I'm like
Hmm.
99.9 they were the same draft. Um, Now I have to look it up.
Fair.
Why don't you tell us about the next injury while I confirm this?
Yeah. Next injury, J.G. McCarthy suffered a high ankle sprain and is going to miss 2 to 4 weeks for the Vikings. This again reported after the game Sunday Night Football. That was your game of the week. You spun the Falcons. We'll talk about that later. But obviously, a big impact for them. He had not a great first game, except the fourth quarter really turned it on, won them that game against the Bears. This week against the Falcons, he did not look good pretty much the whole way. And I think, again, like I said, reported after the game, he didn't exit and have a mysterious injury, and we were confused. It was just like, oh, by the way, he has a high ankle sprain.
Yeah, that was an interesting one to have come out. And yes, 2015, James Winston, first overall pick, Marcus Mariota, second overall pick.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, definitely not great for the Vikings to be losing a quarterback who you are trying to build the future around, and who definitely needs to prove himself. Hopefully, this is on the shorter term. The fact that he didn't go out during the game makes me hopeful that maybe it's not too serious.
Hmm.
Um, and then definitely the highlight, sorry, not highlight, headline news of the
A little
week.
light.
Yeah, slow light, absolutely. Joe Burrow, quarterback for the Bengals, needs surgery for turf toe and will be out a minimum of 3 months for the Bengals, it is suspected. So his season not necessarily over, but Burrow would be returning in mid to late December on that timeline, which would put him squarely at the end of the regular season and start of the postseason. So they will be turning to Jake Browning in Cincinnati, who had a good amount of success this week, even with some picks, but definitely changes the outlook for the Bengals season as a whole.
Yeah, starting off 2-0, the Bengals, and yet coming out of it maybe being more pessimistic than previous seasons when they're known to be slow starters.
Yeah, definitely will be thankful for those 2 wins if they're able to stay competitive in Burrow's absence. And Browning does have a record of that for sure. And then did you mention that Carson Wentz is backing up McCarthy?
I did not. That is my fault. I'm a failure. Sorry about that.
No, I think speaking of first and second overall pick battles, if the Lions and Vikings play each other with with McCarthy on the bench, then we'll get a battle of the first and second overall pick in 2016 draft. I want to say with Goff and Wentz, electric. Um,
Equally successful quarterbacks.
Equally successful quarterbacks, who definitely identical career trajectories. Um, and yeah, nothing more to say about that. Let's
Great.
let's look at contracts. The Cowboys have been spending big this week. Take us
Well,
through their
they
moves.
didn't pay Micah Parsons, so they have a little money to spare. And uh, here's who they spent it on. Instead of Micah Parsons, what about Micah Parsons 10 years ago for one season? Jadeveon Clowney, back when he was on the Texans and looked awesome. That was a long time ago. Signing a 1 year, $6 million deal with the Cowboys. I didn't even know Jadeveon Clowney still really played football. I feel like he's kind of doing that thing at the end of careers where it's like 1 year deal with random team, 1 year deal with random team, and he's like mediocre.
Jadeveon Clowney has been a 1 year deal merchant for the last like 8 years. Do you know what team he signed
Oh
with
God.
previously? What was his team before
Oh, I have
the
no
Cowboys?
clue. Did he ever play for the Raiders?
I don't believe so.
Rats. I'm like, you could really throw out any team, and I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. Okay, actually, I feel more confident than the Raiders. Was he on the Seahawks?
He was on the Seahawks in 2019.
All right, let's go.
Yes.
Feel
So
pretty good about that.
he has played for one, two, three, four, five, six teams now.
Wow.
Um, he's played with
Ravens?
three of those teams for 1 year. Ravens, yep,
Yeah,
yep. Ravens was
remember
one of
that.
them.
And
Uh,
obviously the Texans.
the Texans for sure. Yep, Texans, Ravens, and then you said the Seahawks. There's three
Seahawks.
other teams, and
Wow.
I maybe could have named. I know one of them because it was the one he was on last year, and then one of them I honestly had no memory of, and I'm completely
Wow.
erased from my mind.
Let me look at the list of teams right here in front of me and really throw out my best guess. Cardinals?
No,
Great.
no. Fair thought.
Um, I think I could be confusing that with the fact that Calais Campbell is back there,
Yes, that's
which
fair.
is okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and waste a ton of time throwing out random teams.
Okay, I'm gonna give you in order of most to least likely you would know that he was with this team.
Okay.
He spent 2 years in Cleveland,
Okay.
2021 and 22.
Yeah.
Okay. He spent last year in Carolina.
I think I did know that.
I think he actually, because he had historically had signed like 1 year deal kind of things and then signed 3 years with Carolina and only made it 1 year through, something like
Did
that.
they cut him?
I believe they may have released him. Yeah,
Okay.
I think based on the timeline of their team, that probably makes
Right.
sense. Still got 5.5 sacks last year, but and then in 2020 he played 8 games with the Tennessee Titans, which
Mm.
I could not have told you
Nope.
to
That would have
save my
been
life.
very low on my list of teams. Panthers, I kind of remember. Browns, I don't really remember, despite him being there for 2 years, but I feel like that's because the Browns are just not very memorable.
Yeah, yeah. I think also with Myles Garrett being there, kind of being
Hmm.
that true number one rusher, but I think I remember him being kind of like the second guy there for a while. And now 1 year, 6 mil with the Cowboys. Do you think this is a needle mover at this point, or
Needle mover is a little strong. I think their defense just dropped a bazillion points, or allowed a bazillion points rather. So anyone helps.
yeah? I mean, if you've got the money lying around, why not? For a guy who maybe can give you a couple sacks and hopefully at least contain the edge a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if he
Cowboys.
brings the locker room thing. The bouncing around doesn't tell me he brings the locker room thing, but
Yeah, I don't know if this is I don't know if this is like a signing to gel the team, but
right.
Um speaking of locker room things, remember in the offseason when CJ Gardner Johnson got hurt and we were like, oh man, CJ Gardner Johnson's probably gonna be out for most of the season.
Yeah,
He was
and he played.
playing. He was
Yeah,
playing. What happened? I feel like no one talked about that. I remember talking about it when he got hurt, and
yeah.
then I never heard anything about like, oh, CJ's back. He just is back.
Back and
I don't
getting into
know.
the scuffles as he does.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he's just jawing off. I actually still have real Lions fans will know that before he got hurt, or maybe right after he got hurt, he was trying to popularize like the wear the blue ski masks
I do remember
to
that.
Lions games.
Yeah.
My dad got me like a navy blue ski mask that's just sitting around my house, not even the right color. But go Lions, baby, go Lions.
Yeah.
Yes. If I
Navy
need to
blue works
rob
for the
anybody,
Texans, so.
yeah, it's a navy. If you want to rep the Texans or something.
Yeah.
Uh, Also works for the Cowboys, who made another signing, an extension. This is guard Tyler Smith receiving a 4 year, $96 million deal, 24 million a year. He's now the highest paid guard in the league. So, interior offensive linemen slowly but surely raising the bar the same way we've seen for tackles.
Cowboys just love drafting elite offensive linemen.
It's a
They're good at
great
that.
skill, man. It's a great skill, and with Javonte Williams running well, you know,
So
uh,
well.
to be taking advantage of that. And then you added this thing about the Titans here. I'm curious if you have more insight on why they did this.
Yeah, Titans defensive tackle Jeffery Simmons, kind of a staple there for past several seasons, agreed to a contract revision that includes a $632,529 raise for this season. Apparently, the reason for this raise is the 17th game check he never received 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, the 2023 season. So he was like, I want that money from 2 years ago, and they were like, okay. So
Why did he not get it in the
I
first
don't
place?
know. I couldn't tell you why
Oh,
he didn't
okay.
get it, but they said, yeah, we'll give you that money we owe you back then as a bonus for this year. And apparently, it's the first time in league history it's ever happened.
That's so odd. Huh.
Yeah, here I'll do some research while you take over from here with your feedback and see if I can get some more insight on that.
Yeah, Jeffery Simmons, very good player. I think, unfortunately, one of those guys that if he was on the Eagles, we'd talk about him twice a week. But he's on the Titans, so we talk about him once a month, kind of thing. And this kind of continues as we sort of talked about last week. More teams doing the 1 year raise thing. This looks like a bit of a different situation, but interesting to see teams providing additional financial incentives for 1 year to kind of get that player to buy in and play. Uh, and that is interesting. Are you still digging? Because I can do the trade while
No,
you're.
I have the answer.
What's the
So
answer?
the answer is he signed an extension in 2023, in April of 2023. The extension was before the NFL announced that there would be an additional game in the season. So when he signed the
Uh,
extension, it was not accounting for an additional game. So because he played that game, he is now getting paid for it post,
so
in
for other
post.
players, did they not get? I feel like
Apparently
contracts.
not.
That's
If they
interesting.
extended that offseason specifically before NFL announced the new schedule.
But then your like 2021 contract, right? I assume would have the same problem because it didn't
Hmm.
account. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
I, I feel like how
Apparently,
the
it's a new
NFL.
agent thing. Like his agent was like, "We should do this because you deserve more money." So,
Interesting. Um, interesting, bold choice to be like, hey, I'm your new agent, and we're going to try to squeeze less than $1 million out of your team. Uh, awesome.
yeah.
I wonder if the NFLPA will like negotiate in the event of a further expansion of the schedule. Contracts should automatically prorate their game, like their game check rate to that 18th game or something like that.
Hmm.
So that you essentially make another game check at that 17 game rate for an
Hmm.
18th game. Which, by the way, I feel like an 18th game is coming. I feel like by 2035 for sure. If not 2030, we're gonna have 18 games. That's just my hunch.
More money, more, brand deals with streaming services, blah blah blah. Even out evens out the schedule, which is probably nice, as we talked
Yep.
about a couple episodes ago. Not six teams on bye in 1 week, hopefully.
Yeah. Um,
Every record
okay.
ever will be broken.
Every yeah, again, right? I mean, although some of them have stayed at 16, which I think is kind of awesome, and I do believe also that there needs to be some sort of delineation um, in the record books for the length of a
How many
season in
games?
which something's
Hmm.
achieved. And
Hmm.
I think what's really cool about that, if you're the let me slam my microphone real quick. If you're the league, I think you could do a really cool kind of year long event slash, something you put in every broadcast. We're like, okay, yes, we get it. Player X is chasing record Y, whatever. But if you say, hey, we're going to set new records for the 18 game season, then the first year you have an 18 game season, you can chase
Hmm.
like whoever is the yards leader for receivers this year will be a record holder at least for this year, right?
Right. Yeah, that'd
Um,
be cool.
I feel like that would kind of give it something.
Whoever throws the most interceptions this year, you will have the most interceptions in an 18
Right?
game
Yeah, I mean,
season.
in an 18 game season,
Congratulations.
and you could kind of make something of that. And I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe you could make that like a special Hall of Fame presentation, right? Or something like that. I don't know.
Good ideas. Sorry, they don't do that in the NFL, so good luck.
My bad, my bad. Let's go into. I wish we had Dom here to do songs for each section of the news. I feel like
Oh, did you
I
like
would.
that addition to 22 man game?
Well, I
I
just
mean, to two-man game, sorry.
my dream is that one day ESPN or NFL Network, or they're probably going to be the same in like 2 weeks, whatever, does a day where they like have incredibly intense coverage of back of the roster moves, where it's like breaking, dun 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 dun, and then it's like the Titans cut their seventh round receiver, but they
And
like
it's
care.
us.
Yes. Um, and
Yeah.
this move feels like this would be like so heavily featured in that Imagine
hmm
broadcast in my mind. So, what was the trade heard round the greater New England area this week?
Yeah, so the Patriots traded Ja'Lynn Polk. Of course, we announced last week he's out for the season after suffering an injury, I believe, was it in the preseason and training camp? I don't remember. Um, and a 2028 seventh round pick to the New Orleans Saints for a 2027 sixth round pick. If you're not familiar with Ja'Lynn Polk, he was a second round draft pick last year in 2024. Had a pretty underwhelming rookie season because everyone in the Patriots offense did. And this year, of course, the injury I already mentioned. And of course, in that draft, the Patriots had pick 34. They traded back three slots to pick 37 to get Ja'Lynn Polk. They traded that pick to the Chargers, who selected wide receiver Lad McConkey in his stead, who has been awesome in his first couple of seasons. So, opportunity is everything. But when you look back at that, just two drafts, I mean, not even two drafts yet, 2 years removed from that draft, not looking so great for the Patriots.
Yeah, in a draft class that I want to say currently there's maybe like it's Drake May and maybe one or two other players that have a chance to be starting for this team or like on this team in the future. I think a number of those players have already been cut. So just a not another not so great draft, actually very bad draft for the Patriots. And something that I feel like has become a trend. When I saw this happen and you were like, yeah, he was traded while injured. You know what came into my mind? And I'm like 98% sure this is right. And this is such a deep basketball pull that I'm going to be feeling real good if this is right.
Okay. You think I
This
just know it
has
off the dome?
this has Pacers trading James Wiseman all over it.
Oh, yeah. I think you're. Wait, James
Because I
Wiseman is
read,
still on the Pacers, I
is
think.
he still on?
Is he?
I thought they signed him and then he got hurt and then they traded him, but maybe I was wrong. James Wiseman. Right.
For some
This
reason, I
is
thought
the
you were
NFL.
going way in the past. Yeah, he's still in the Pacers. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
this says James Wiseman joins Raptors in trade with Pacers. Raptors received James Wiseman in cash for a 2026
I don't
second
even
round pick
remember
he would
that
give to the
happening.
Pacers.
When did that happen?
Um, I'm different. This was in February of this year, I believe. Maybe this
Wow.
was February 7th, 2025. Epic.
Oh, I understand what happened. I understand what happened.
Did they trade him and then cut him and then he signed
He's
with the
back. He's
Pacers?
back with the Pacers. Yeah.
Yeah. I,
But
I
yeah,
like to
he
keep.
did have like a torn ACL thing or something. So
Yep. I like to keep tabs on my former Pistons. You know what I mean? Uh, all
wow,
right.
what
Yeah.
a great pool. Yeah, sucks for the Patriots.
Yeah, it does.
Oh well. Speaking of the Patriots, let's talk about week two.
Let's go. Oh, good segue. Good segue.
That's right, baby. If you don't remember, if you weren't here last week, we do a wheel where we spin a wheel and focus on a team every week. And by the end of the season, we will have hit all 32 teams. My team this week was the Patriots. So that is why Jared is complimenting me on my segue. And what a game this turned out to be. And when I worried it would be a very bad game, Patriots narrowly defeat the Dolphins on the road. And it was a lot of fun. A couple of things, quick stats here, real quick. Tyreek Hill caught a 47-yard catch in this game, his first catch over 30 yards since week one of last season. So it has been over a year since Tyreek Hill has had a big downfield play, which is kind of the whole appeal of his skill set. So I thought that was kind of a shocking stat. Of course, the Dolphins' offense has kind of just been blah in the past year, so that makes sense. A couple of crazy things that happened. I was watching this game live, of course, and I was like, this is insane. The Dolphins returned a punt for a touchdown, and it felt like a huge momentum swing. They kicked the ball off to the Patriots, and Antonio Gibson returns the kickoff for a touchdown. So back-to-back special teams touchdowns was awesome to happen in real time, and just totally the electricity from the crowd on the punt return touchdown, followed by the absolute silence from the crowd on the Patriots kick return touchdown, was very fun to kind of witness and be a part of. Obviously, I paid more attention to the Patriots in this game since that was the assignment, so I'll talk about them a little bit more. Drake May had a big bounce back game this week. He didn't look great in week one, but this week he looked a lot more decisive, a lot less hesitant. I think that was an issue he had going into the season. Of course, we have talked about the receiving core of the Patriots, how not great they are, and he seemed to kind of just get everyone involved in some capacity, making decisions when it mattered, running, which is not something he did a lot of last year as a rookie, but is something that is in his skill set, scrambling, getting outside the pocket, and making plays when he can. And he looked pretty good for them. Their backfield is questionable. I don't understand what the Patriots are doing because in week one, it made a little more sense to me. A little more Travion Henderson. They just drafted a relatively high draft pick for running back. Ramondre Stevenson, not washed, but getting up there in age, and I thought would be kind of a goal line threat or something like that. And it was like 60-40 game one. This game was kind of like 60-40, but it was the other way with Ramondre getting a lot more use than Travion Henderson, which is very shocking, especially in the passing game. Ramondre had a lot of catches in this game, and that feels like Travion Henderson's skill set being a small running back out of the backfield. It's what he was kind of known for in college. So I was surprised to see that. Ramondre's not a bad pass catcher himself, but it's just weird to me that they weren't using Henderson in that way. He is small, so his frame kind of leaves some to be desired. You don't want to play him all the time. You don't want him to get hurt. But I just thought it was interesting. They started off week one using him more than I thought, and then kind of regressed this week. Their receiving core, I already talked about. Diggs still limited. Still seems like he was on a snap count. Hasn't really had any like big plays, and all of the kind of catches he's had are very like, here's this 8 yard catch, gets down, walks back on the line of scrimmage. He's very like businessy, which is interesting. Not something I would usually describe Stephon Diggs as. He's kind of like, yep, let's go. So I don't know if he's in the doghouse or I don't know what's going on, but he seems like he's trying to be the good veteran right now. Kayshon Boutte, another week where he is getting targeted way more than I ever thought he would get targeted. I think probably their most targeted receiver through the first 2 weeks, if I had to guess. And he had a pretty good game again. And aside from that, it's kind of just miscellaneous here and there receivers. Their defense, in which I had in both fantasy leagues, and I no longer have in either fantasy league because they look bad through 2 weeks of football. Actually, I dropped them before this week happened, but after week one, they were like not great. And then after this week, it was also a pretty ugly affair for them with the Dolphins, who got obliterated by the mighty Colts in week one, put up 27 points against them. We talked about their offseason free agent acquisitions, and those sometimes played a part in this game. Milton Williams, for example, I think played a decent part on the defensive line, getting the two and putting pressure on him, especially towards the end of the game. I think as the game went on, the Dolphins D line started putting more and more pressure on. Sorry, the Patriots D line put more and more pressure on the Dolphins O line. But the secondary is the big problem right now. Christian Gonzalez hasn't played this season. He's been out for the first 2 games. So that's obviously a big reason. He is clearly their best player in the secondary. A lot of Marcus Jones I noticed out there, who kind of was a special teams player for this team for a couple of years and now is actually suiting up in the secondary. So they just have a lot of random guys back there. Tua was kind of throwing all over him. Last week, the Raiders were throwing all over them as well, and the Raiders looked very bad this week against a comparable Chargers defense. So something's going on in the Patriots secondary that teams just kind of get what they want. And that is something that I think they will still need to address even when Christian Gonzalez comes back, because although he's a, all pro level corner in his best games, that's just one person. So they need to figure out something there. I know the D line is okay, secondary, big issue. And that's kind of the things I noticed for the Patriots in this game.
Um, yeah, I think that's all good insight there. Good to see May distributing and hoping the Patriots backfield figures it out. Right now, Travion Henderson is, I don't think, starting for me in fantasy. So let's
Me
pick that back
neither in
up.
my other league. So
Yeah, I benched him after this week.
yeah.
So that's obviously not what's important. But I would think that even if he is a smaller back, I feel like we've seen some smaller backs in this league, and there are ways to use those players that are relatively sensible and don't necessarily get them constantly banged up. Uh, I wonder how much bringing Gonzalez back would, that lets Carlton Davis kind of be a high end number two. Maybe that covers up the fact that, maybe the defense is letting the quarterback hang in the pocket too long. I don't know. Do you feel like this team is going to be competitive down the stretch this year? Do you think this looks like a team that's still very much figuring it out? You
Yeah, it's a
feeling
good
optimistic
question.
about them?
It's a good question. I think this is a team that's going to be pretty middling. I do think the defense will consistently give up a lot of points, considering they gave up a lot of points to the Raiders and the Dolphins so far this season. I think in terms of game winning, it really will depend on how far can Drake May carry them because they don't have a ton of like offensive weapons. Like you look at a team like the Falcons, for example, who you're going to talk about next with Bijan Robinson, and that guy is just a weapon unto himself. There's no one even like remotely close to that level in the Patriots offense from their skill positions. So it really will need to be Drake May making all the right decisions, getting his guys set up in the right place for them to be successful. Because
Hmm.
the Dolphins, I mean, I mentioned the Tyreek Hill catch. Jalen Waddle had a fine game. They didn't really have anything at a tight end. Darren Waller's still out for them. But there was just several plays where I was like, man, that guy is just wide open. Like it was, no one was near him. So I don't know if it's a busted coverage, if it's who they have out there, if it's a coaching thing, but their defense needs big, big help right now. Because I think ideally the players are there, they're just not executing.
Yeah, and I know they've got a first year coordinator in Terrell Williams, so I wonder if maybe there's some growing pains there as well. I know Vrabel's a defensive minded coach, but
Hmm.
on the offensive side, you have Josh McDaniels, who's such a kind of veteran coordinator. So, um, yeah, it's good to hear that May had a better week, though. I think if you're a Patriots fan this season, that is your number one indicator of whether you can be okay with what's going on. Is does Drake May look like he can be part of a winning team and pulling out a close one against a divisional opponent on the road? Good way to do that. So, um, any other takeaways from this game?
Not really. No, I'm good. I also you know what I will say this because it's a theme of this podcast since the first episode. I don't know if it was Drake May was really good or if the Dolphins secondary is just the worst unit in football. So that could
Yeah.
be a part of it too. Because yeah, they were just getting thrown all over as well. Just a lot of throwing in this game over both secondaries.
Uh, in related news, I don't know if you saw any of Mike McDaniel's press conference for the Dolphins after the game.
That guy is such
Uh,
a goober, man.
he's a goober, but you can tell he's a goober who's slowly having his will ripped from him, unfortunately. He was talking about the game and they clipped it on Heed the Call, and then Addy sent me the same clip. It was like, to win the game, you have to win the game. And he's just
I feel like
talking
I
like,
did see that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it's like,
Silly
you can tell that unfortunately, maybe it's just because of I saw before the game as well, they flew a plane over Miami Stadium that was like fire McDaniel and fire, I think Greer's the GM. I'm totally blanking on the GM's name now, but it was like fire the GM, fire the coach stuff. All right, let's go to a less exciting game, quite frankly. This is my wheel game. I was
Yeah.
tracking the Atlanta Falcons this week, and the Falcons soundly beat the Vikings 22-6. It's important to note there are a few key factors that I think helped the Falcons perform the way they did. The Vikings were missing a couple key defensive pieces, including defensive back Jeff Okudah, who I believe might have been their third corner, and then Andrew Van Ginkel, the outside linebacker. And then in addition to having their probably their best offensive lineman, tackle Christian
And
Darrisaw.
Harrison Smith still out with illness.
Harrison Smith out with illness as well. I knew there were one or two other players. And another defender, I believe, is already on IR. So, in addition to all of that, during the course of the game, having lost tackle Christian Darrisaw, they also lose backup offensive tackle Justin Skule, who I believe went to Vanderbilt. And then center Ryan Kelly. They both enter concussion protocol, leaving their offensive line a mess. Further, and this was later in the game, if I recall, Aaron Jones injured his hamstring and he will now be placed on injured reserve. So their top running back, at least ostensibly, now out for at least the next 4 weeks over the course of this game. And so some key factors that limited the effectiveness of Minnesota, and we don't know, necessarily how long JJ McCarthy was affected by the injury, how bad it was in game time. The Falcons looked really pretty good. Their defense had 6 sacks in the first half, and unless I'm misremembering, and that included a sack from each of their first round talents. So both Jalon
Yeah. I
Walker
wanted you to talk about this.
and James Pierce Jr. And I saw a sack happen and I was like, oh, don't be Pierce Jr. because I know like such a fool. And then of course it was, which, hey, listen, if you can beat that narrative, that's awesome. Granted, as I mentioned, they were playing against a compromised offensive line that got more compromised as the game went on, got those 6 sacks in the first half. I think that's great. If you can have a disruptive pass rush for this Falcons team, they were getting a lot from their secondary as well. Late pick for safety Xavier Watts, who, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a rookie as well. And then another pick by their 3rd round rookie, Bowman. First name totally Billy Bowman. There we go. Getting an interception as well. So a ton of defensive contributions from your rookies. That is exactly, that's great, right? That's textbook great results, especially I think the Falcons banking on a lot of young defensive talent to show up in this game. They got that full stop. Their defense looked really imposing. Granted, JJ McCarthy did not look great. Let's set that aside for a moment. If their defense can play like this week in and week out, consistent disruption, some takeaways from the secondary, you're feeling really good as a Falcons fan. I don't know if I've ever sat and watched Bijan Robinson run this much. Maybe I've seen clips, but like this is the first full game where I've sat down and been like, I'm going to watch Bijan. God, that guy's so talented. He's so just good. Like, when some people are like, oh man, that guy's like a Cadillac. It's like, what do you mean? And then you watch him run and you're like, I understand power. Like, there's a smoothness to the way he runs that just feels like you could hear the engine just, when you hear a car that is a beautiful, smooth engine, that's what his running sounded like in my mind. It's a ridiculous thing to say, but just the way he had that sort of smooth acceleration, and just that, like, he just revved up. Different from a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think is also very talented in the same echelon of running back, but just shiftier, right? A little bit more of that, like, able to go from 0 to 100 really quickly and make space. Bijan just like, it's just, there's a magic to it. And with that said, I personally came away a little bit disappointed in the offense. Let me hit my microphone 3 more times this episode. And the reason for that is they had every opportunity in the world to bury the Vikings, and they couldn't do it. Here is the breakdown of drives in the first half of this game. Falcons start with the ball, field goal, 3 minutes, 48 seconds. Vikings turn over on downs. Field goal for the Falcons. Punt after 3 plays for the Vikings. Falcons fumble. Vikings field goal. Falcons punt. Vikings interception, Falcons field goal, Vikings field goal. Okay. And the reason I bring this up is that if you're forcing a turnover on downs and you're securing that interception, those are situations that put you in a strong position to score, right? You just don't have to go that far down the field. I believe the interception took place at the Minnesota 38, which means you are already starting in field goal range, effectively speaking. The turnover on downs, similarly, was in the territory of the Vikings. The Minnesota 36 is where a fumble ended that drive. And then it only took 2 plays, and the Falcons were down at the Minnesota 23 on that first drive.
Mm.
And for all of that, you get 3 field goals, right? Bijan ripped off 2 excellent runs to start this game, a 25, then a 17-yard run to bring them down to the 23, and they leave that with the field goal. Then obviously 2 drives starting inside the Minnesota 40, both ending in field goals. The red zone was not where the Falcons were buttering their bread tonight. Against the Vikings, it was more than enough. The Vikings didn't score in the second half, only had 2 field goals to their name. They simply were not performing on offense. So be it. But I think against a stronger team where maybe your defense isn't quite as disruptive, you want to finish drives, especially when the opportunities are falling into your lap with turnovers, because that third quarter, I guess it was a fourth quarter interception. Yeah, that followed a punt, but by then the Falcons had put it up to the final score. Either way, I think you really just want to see a little bit more in the red zone from a Falcons team. I thought they didn't let Penix do a ton. He definitely ripped some down the middle, but I felt like a lot of his targets were around that 10 to 15-yard range, which again, those are huge plus plays, right? But I don't recall seeing a ton of deep shots. Maybe I missed them. But I
Yeah,
thought you could
their
maybe,
offense definitely felt very short, medium.
yeah,
Because I watched it Sunday night primetime, so I of course watched it as well. Yeah, felt like very intermediate. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
Agreed.
so all that to say, I think, hey, your running game looked really good. That's awesome. That's a recipe for success. Your defense looked disruptive. I don't know if they'll be this disruptive every week. If they're 75 to 80% of this every week against better opponents, I think you're really happy with that. I think the difference is you might want to try to find a few more big plays through Penix to potentially try to break up your offensive momentum and maybe give yourself an opportunity to turn some field goals into touchdowns, especially when you're putting yourself in a great position with strong offensive play leading up to the red zone and defensive takeaways putting you near the red zone. I just want to see the Falcons capitalize. Overall, this was a great game. I just think the Falcons probably could have won this game 32-6, and have put it away comfortably by the start of the fourth quarter. They had that touchdown to take it from it was already a 2-score game, but to go from 15-6 to 22-6 midway through the fourth quarter, I feel like you could have reached that number much sooner. Anything I missed about the Falcons, you think, or does that mostly encapsulate what you saw as well?
Yeah, you mentioned Xavier Watts, I believe, starting opposite of Jesse Bates. Definitely seemed like a great safety duo there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seeing both James Jr. and Jalen Walker having success, I was like, oh, Jared's gonna hate that. Uh,
Yeah.
it was funny that was the game that you watched. You mentioned Bijan's big plays, and they had a whole thing about his name being Bijan, not Bijan. After last season, his name was
Yep.
Bijan, not Bijan. That was funny. But what if you gave the ball to him in the red zone too? I don't know, just a thought. Maybe that'll help your touchdown. Like they have, he's like, okay, here's this 35-yard run. Now we will do 3 short passes, or we will give it to Tyler Algier. And it's like, this is an interesting strategy.
Yeah, I pulled up the play by play because I wanted to refresh myself, and you're right. It looks like a lot of chippy short passes, getting cute, just not necessary. And seeing this time out here, I am reminded they were really disrupted by the noise at US Bank Stadium in those first
Hmm.
couple drives. They figured that out, but I was worried because when you have to take a timeout on that first drive, running into a potential delay of game situation, just a little worrisome. But no, they tightened up well. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this especially frustrated me with the field goals in the red zone, their kicker was Parker Romo, who
Hmm.
they signed this week to compete with their longtime kicker, Younghoe Koo, who has since kind of last season been falling off, missing more kicks. And Parker Romo, to his credit, 5 of 5 on field goals, 1 of 1 on extra points, which is awesome to come in and do that. It feels like this year is turning into the year of the kicker you signed this week after Matt Prater giving the Bills the win in week 1.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, especially when you have that backup kicker in, they were right to have confidence in him. But I would love to, you want to be able to convert those opportunities and not put it in your kicker's hands when you might still have some doubts about that position, right? Parker Romo did great. I don't think that necessarily means that the kicker problem is solved. And if you can turn a few of those field goals into touchdowns, you don't even have to ask the question, right? So,
Maybe that's what they thought. Maybe they were like, let's just see if this guy can make some kicks, and then maybe we can just he'll just be the kicker.
yeah, I mean, I certainly think he's firmly ahead of Younghoe Koo after that performance. But if he missed one or two of those field goals, going into the fourth quarter, it's still a one score game. So you want to, I think, be careful of that as a team. But no, this was a good recipe for the Falcons. JJ McCarthy looked pretty dubious for the Vikings, and I'm worried for the team in purple. Not
Fair.
from a Lions standpoint, but from a empathy for another team standpoint.
Right.
Let's run through the rest of the week. We got a ton of other games we wanted to hit. I see, I think six of them, five or six of them that we highlighted as worth discussing. So you want to start with
Yeah.
Thursday night?
We're gonna change it up. Last week we talked about every single game in
Good
depth,
Lord. Yeah.
which maybe it was week one, so maybe that's okay. This week we're just gonna hit the important ones, meaning the good games or the primetime matchups or whatever, and then we'll quickly one line our way through the rest. Our new favorite segment, I think, the one line segment. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good indicator that you like podcasting when your favorite segment is where you say the least. Nothing ominous about that.
No, no,
Uh,
no.
let's start with Thursday night football. This was a great game to see whether the Packers were legit after thrubbing the Viking or sorry, thrashing the Lions week one. Are the Packers real? Damon, what did we learn?
The Packers are real, man. And not only are they real, their defense is really real. Their defense is scary. It
Yeah.
is has made two, I would say, elite offenses last season at least look pretty mediocre in the first 2 weeks of this season. So that's scary. Yeah, that you have the note here that they were stuffed by the defense, and it's crazy because Micah Parsons is still not even like the guy yet. Like he's not
Mm-hmm.
fully acclimated to the team. He was more acclimated this week than week one, of course, but this would have been the case, I think, without Micah Parsons. So when he gets fully there and fully in, this is going to be a scary NFC North foe. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Jordan Love on the offensive end has been enough of kind of a game manager-y quarterback that he can lead his team to victory by making the right throws when he needs to. They have a strong run game and Josh Jacobs and that O-line over there. So just an all-around team that seems like right now they don't have like the craziest star talent aside from a couple of those names I just mentioned. They're just executing super well.
Yeah, definitely a talented roster from top to bottom. Adding Micah gives them a true defensive ace. And it just seems like everything they're doing on defense is clicking right now. Shutting down a Commanders team that didn't look like a world beater week one, but certainly has a track record of strong offense and a quarterback in Jayden Daniels who can create in multiple ways, which is generally, it's hard to keep those quarterbacks from doing something in a game, right? When they can attack you in multiple ways. But I was only able to catch the latter portion of this game coming home from work, but honestly, by the time I got home, it seemed like the game was just about done. And a lot of the points for the Commanders, final score 27-18, those were garbage time points.
Hmm.
And this game was not as close as the final score indicates. A couple injuries to note. Packers wide receiver Jaden Reed broke his collarbone, and that'll keep him out for a while. The Commanders lost defensive end Dietrich Wise for the season, as well as running back Austin Eckler. And Chase Edmonds signed to the practice squad, as you noted, to potentially give them a replacement / elevation there. And then tight end John Bates and wide receiver Noah Brown for the Commanders are doubtful this week based on the injuries they sustained in this game. Tough break for Austin Eckler. I was kind of reading on NFL Reddit or whatever. A lot of people saying this might be the end of his career,
Yeah,
and
he's early 30s, right? Tough to come back from an injury like that. Non-contact injury, just to
yep,
turned a corner on a route he was running and fell down, and it was like, oh, he grabbed at the back. When they grab at the back, it's always a clear sign what happened, and people kind of knew right away. Super unfortunate. Um, we can mention again they traded Brian Robinson Jr. for a sixth round pick. Not a ton of value for a guy that was on the last year of his rookie deal. It has looked pretty good for them. And now I think we'll see a lot of Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt probably as their number one running back going forward.
Yeah, I think no doubt. And you can't anticipate that going into the season. You're gonna have an injury like that. But it goes to show that you want to have confidence in all of your backups if you're gonna move on from someone who's got a proven record there. Um and we'll talk about the Commanders' next opponent. I think if you're missing Jayden Daniels for that game, it's not the end of the world, maybe compared to some other opponents. But um, I personally would like to see a game where the Commanders take over on offense and bring out some of the fireworks we saw last year to have a little more confidence in the product this year, though we might not see that next week with some of these offensive injuries piling up.
Still not utilizing Terry McLaurin either. Debo Samuel's resurgence has been quite the surprise over in Washington as their primary offensive weapon. And Terry McLaurin, after the contract holdout, the contract signing, you would think they purposefully utilize him more in their game plan, but that has not been the case so far.
Yeah. Hopefully they can maybe get him more involved in the offense. I imagine if you have a backup like Mariota coming in, might be relying more on those safe, sure-handed talents on the offense. So maybe we see McLaurin get fed a little more as a result.
I
Let's
also
jump.
mentioned one
Oh,
more
sorry. Go
thing.
ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
Matthew Golden being utilized like Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Strange. He's just like 40-yard deep bombs, and that's it. That's all they're really throwing to him right now. So, first round pick, wide receiver, first time in 20 plus years, right? I feel like he would also be utilized more. Maybe we see that with Jayden Reed being out, Christian Watson still out. So now they're down to Golden, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, and a couple of guys I've never heard of, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like you want to get because Golden's speed was kind of one of his defining traits, if I recall. I mean, you want,
Hmm.
I think, an end around kind of thing, run
Hmm.
some kind of jet sweep, something or other to allow
Right.
that lateral and then downhill speed to sort of be capitalized on. I wonder if maybe we see some of that folded in
Even
at
some of
some
like
point.
prime Tyreek Hill's biggest plays are like slants across the middle where he just outruns everybody.
Yeah, I mean, speed's a weapon no matter where you are on the field. And I think about the ways the Lions use someone like Jameson Williams, where yeah, you definitely want to take advantage of that deep speed, but I think you can also scheme in plays that allow them to kind of sort of like in Miami, how they would sort of run Tyreek, like Tyreek would essentially run to the line of scrimmage as the play is starting so that he's already got his speed built up. I feel like some of those kind of end around plays allow your speedsters to build that momentum and get closer to top speed before they break the line of scrimmage. Maybe there's something in store. But with Jayden Reed hurt, I definitely think we'll see more of Golden, and it'll be a good show of where the rookie is. Oftentimes with rookie wide receivers, almost out of the box the level of player that they're going to be. Not always, but there are certainly some players like that. One of them being Malik Neighbors, who gave everything he could to help the Giants against the Cowboys, but they eventually fell in overtime, 40-37 in the week's maybe most explosive, exciting finish.
Yeah. What an awesome game. An awesome, surprisingly close game for two teams that we had pecked down at the bottom of the NFC East. They came out and had some offensive explosions. We had vintage Russell Wilson. One of the neighbors' touchdowns, so you mentioned neighbors, was an insane deep bomb throw to Malik Neighbors, who was double covered and still got
Yeah.
the touchdown pass. I was like, okay, that was crazy. And then aside from that, on the other end, I think that the Cowboys offensive line we talked about, they are just kind of being able to run over everybody right now with Javonte Williams, who is not exactly the most explosive running back, but against the Eagles now and Giants, who we've talked about their D line being a strength of that defense, they've been able to get a lot of success up front, which after some amount of time will open up the passing game for Dak.
Yeah, it's pretty insane to think that in the fourth quarter, 41 points were scored in just the fourth quarter alone. Um, and
Absurd.
considering the final score is 40-37, not only is that 41 points, but it's more than half of all of the points in a massively high scoring game coming in that fourth quarter alone. Um, Brandon Aubrey is insane.
He's a
Um,
freak.
the first kicker to have a game tying or winning kick with no time left in both regulation and overtime of the same game. That kick to send them to overtime, 64 yards,
Made it
which
like it was nothing.
like it was nothing. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the record kick in our lifetime. So um, I think it's a matter of time before we see a Brandon Aubrey or one of the other kickers sort of in his echelon drill the record. I think it's just a matter of
I don't know
time.
how many I put up there at the Aubrey. That guy's crazy. The consistency he has from range is wild.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk
Uh,
about that with another game, I'm sure.
yeah. But needless to say, Aubrey, just an awesome player, and stands out as kind of the ultimate deciding factor in a very, very exciting, memorable contest between two teams who, the Giants definitely still figuring things out. The Cowboys leaving first 2 weeks 1-1 feels about right if you're playing the Eagles and the Giants. They did lose center Cooper Beebe in this game, and he will be out 6 to 8 weeks following an ankle injury. So down there starting center for the Cowboys. But as we said, they draft a lot of good offensive linemen and surely have the talent to riot here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Next
yeah, yeah.
next contest.
I'm
Oh,
wearing the shirt, baby. I made the decision a long time ago without telling you that I would not wear my Lions polo until the Lions won their first game while we had our podcast.
I should have worn my own Lions polo to match. This was a game to soothe the mortal soul after a challenging week one where the Lions looked out of sorts, um, like their scheme wasn't going to work, like that their interior offensive line looked discombobulated. Fear not, the Lions scored 52 points, sending former offensive coordinator and current head coach of the Bears, Ben Johnson, into the dark abyss, winning a game by 31, in which the Lions pretty quickly pulled away in the third quarter after a competitive first half. I don't know how closely you were watching this one. This was, of course, where my focus was for the 12 o'clock slot, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, I couldn't focus as much as I wanted to because I had to watch the mighty Patriots Dolphins contest for the wheel.
Yep.
But I did have I had Patriots Dolphins occupied its own screen, and then I had Red Zone on the other screen.
Yep.
And the Lions towards the end of this game really just kept popping up on Red Zone over and
Yeah.
over and over. And I was like, this is awesome. I do want to point out the Jahmyr Gibbs run where he's like kind of by the sideline and does this little dance juke thing was insane, and so fun to watch. I really enjoyed that. And I
Yeah.
enjoyed Amon-Ra being on my fantasy team, scoring 3 touchdowns. That was also really fun.
For the listeners, Damon and I were discussing a trade package where I was going to send running back Kyron Williams for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I was going to throw in maybe a little extra compensation. That has been scuttled by this week for sure. So thanks for that. No, it was great. Montgomery Gibbs and St. Brown each scored a touchdown the ninth time that they've done so as teammates, which is the most times that any trio in NFL history has done so. Goff has had 5 games he started end with 50 plus points for his team, tied fourth most all time with Peyton Manning. Ahead of him are Tom Brady with 8, and then Drew Brees and Len Dawson with 6. So Goff in rarefied air there for sure.
No idea who Lynn Dawson is. No clue.
Former Chiefs quarterback, I believe,
Okay.
back when they were Super Bowl contenders at the start of the Super Bowl era, I believe. IDK. But this was just a tough one, start to finish for the Bears. Corner Jalen Johnson out indefinitely following this game with a groin injury. And then Kyler Gordon, the corner, and linebacker TJ Edwards are both kind of week to week with injuries as
Yeah.
well.
Johnson was out last week with this groin injury. He injured during training camp, missed all
Mhm.
training camp, all preseason. Came missed week 1 as well. Came back for this game and then re-aggravated that same injury.
Um, yeah, just a really tough break for Chicago, who I think right now they need the talent that they can get um, to stay kind of competitive. Definitely not the start for the Bears that I think many were hoping for. Major turning point in this game, end of the first half. Wide receiver Isaac Tesla of the Lions makes a one-handed grab, his second catch in the NFL, both insane one-handed grabs. And I know I'm a fan, but if you look at them, they're genuinely pretty
Yeah,
crazy
they're
grabs.
they're they're both wild catches.
Um, there was some weird clock stuff that I think gave the Lions a leg up. The sideline judge ruled that he was out of
hmm
bounds, but the clock kept running. Lions tried to snap the ball and spike it with a second left, arguable whether they got it in or not. But there was confusion because even though the clock should have stopped, obviously it kept running. Then it was later ruled that the runner was actually in bounds. And so after they try to spike it, Bears running into the tunnel at halftime, they say, just kidding. Please come back. We were mistaken. It should have been a running clock. We're going to reset the clock to 16 seconds with a 10-second runoff by rule, giving the Lions 6 seconds to fire one of Amon-Ra St. Brown's touchdowns, which gave them a much more commanding lead going into the half and gave them, I think, the momentum to pull away in the second half. So
Yeah.
major turning point there. Otherwise, it was a much closer game in the first half, definitely a little more back and forth. Lions, though, turned on the Jets, looked vintage to their performance in the last few years. Hopefully, can keep the good times rolling on Monday Night Football this coming week.
Yeah. I also want to point out on the other side, Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze connection is looking very good there. He's looking like he's taking over the number one receiver duties, which is awesome because they drafted them together in the first round last year, and you're seeing that form. So hopefully it can be a cornerstone of their piece going forward, but not enough that it upsets me as an NFC North rival.
Absolutely. I still think there's a lot we need to see from Caleb Williams before I view him as someone who is someone who could lead the Bears to be a threat in the NFC
hmm
North right now. Obviously, still 2 weeks in with a new head coach. They could be a very different team by the end of the year based on Caleb Williams' presumed growth. All that TBD for now. Tough loss week 1 against the Vikings and a drubbing this week at the hands of the Lions. Um, this next game, I was following the score, not really following the contest itself. So I'll be leaning on you a little bit for insight here.
Sure.
The Colts, who I said their logo was what is at the bottom of a horse's feet, nonetheless, are the ones who come out on top. Colts 29, Broncos 28, and a team that we thought looked like they might be in the Super Bowl picture. Now 1-1. The Colts a shocking 2-0 based on all projections.
Daniel Jones, 2-0, baby. Against the Dolphins in week 1, and we were like, it's the Dolphins. Against the Broncos in week 2 was crazy. The
Yeah,
Broncos defense that gave Kim Ward a lot of trouble in week 1 did not look good this week on either of my fantasy lineups in which they had -5 fantasy points. Thanks, Denver, for nothing. Lost my matchup because of that. So that's great. But yeah, Daniel Jones looking. I don't even know if I could see vintage Daniel Jones. I don't know if he ever looked like this, but he is slicing and dicing out there. He's using his mobility to his advantage. Jonathan Taylor looks great in the run game so far this year. Hoping he, of course, stays healthy and all of that, as he's had some issues in the past. A lot of okay receiving targets that Daniel Jones is distributing to Tyler Warren, of course. Is their rookie tight end has been pretty solid for them. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. They kind of all get involved a little bit in their passing attack against this team that we mentioned uh, has a lot of defensive stars and one of the best defenses on paper coming into the season. So this one was a shocker. Bo Nix did have a bounce back game too. He looked pretty good against the Colts defense. Didn't look great in week 1 against a Titans defense, so we were a little worried about that. Looked fine this week. J.K. Dobbins, they're utilizing more than rookie R.J. Harvey in the backfield. Cortland Sutton remains to be kind of a guy that's not a guy for the receiver court, but I can't remember his name. It's like Tony Franklin. Has like the
Oh,
most
Troy Franklin.
targets. Troy Franklin, thank you. Has like the most targets and catches for the Broncos in two
Wow.
games. So I don't know how that happened.
I want to say
Um,
he's a former second round pick. He just kind of wasn't super visible last year. So maybe he's coming on.
yeah, just like randomly becoming important for that team. But of course, the big story for this game was the end of the game, where the Colts kicker, I believe it's Spencer Schrader, is their kicker, had a 60-yard attempt to win the game. Colts down 2, 28-26. Kicks this ball, it's absolutely shanked wide right, no shot of going in. And upon review, there's a penalty. Actually, scratch that. It was called in lifetime. So the referee did not know, where that kick was going. But it was called when it happened. Leverage penalty on Broncos defensive lineman. Now, if you're a listener, you may say, what is leverage? I've never heard that penalty called in my entire life. Probably because you haven't, because it is very rare to be called in the NFL. But essentially, the rule of leverage is you cannot make contact with any player on your team or the other team to gain height in an attempt to block a kick. And when they showed the replay on this, the broadcast was also confused. Like they were like, I don't, they just kind of circled an area. And it was like
Yeah.
somewhere over there. But when I watch it a lot and you look into it and there, they, at first people thought it was the center because there's a guy right in front of the center that kind of puts hands on the shoulder, does this a little bit. That's it. It wasn't that. If you're looking at the Colts offensive line, it was on your right. So it's on the Broncos defensive line's left of the center. Um, this guy, I don't know who it is. I don't remember who it is. He puts his hand on like basically essentially the right guard's like shoulder and just lunges over him entirely and like reaches for the kick. Doesn't make contact with it. Doesn't affect the kick at all. But
Mm,
alas, the penalty is called, which fine. I guess he did do it. It's also 15 extra yards. So it ended up
yeah.
being a 45-yard kick that they got to retry and made, giving the Colts a rather controversial win.
Yeah. Um, Definitely. I was listening to I think it was the Athletic Football Show, and they were like, "Why is this a 15-yard penalty?"
Yeah.
And I think like maybe you make the distinction of okay, if you're leveraging the shoulder, it's 5 yards or whatever, and if you're leveraging on the head and neck area, it's 15 yards or something. Like if you're pressing down on the back of someone's helmet and whipping their neck back to try to like get
Yeah.
up and that's 15 yards, sure,
It's good
but
that you said that because that is the reason for the penalty is to protect the offensive lineman.
well, that's what I had heard on the Athletic Football Show. There's like it's protection. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, shoulder. I don't know. I think it really would depend on where you put the pressure, but either way, all of that to say, I think definitely a bit of a dubious penalty. Not in it being called, but in the length it gives you. But if you are Spencer Schrader, you are very thankful,
Mhm.
very very thankful for that penalty.
Also worth mentioning, Colts yet to punt the ball. Haven't punted the ball all
That's
season.
psychotic. That's crazy. I I will say for myself, I feel like I want to see one or two more weeks of the Colts before I like
Oh
believe.
yeah. I don't believe. No, no, no. I don't
Um,
believe. But
but
it's been good.
is there a world where the Colts win in a division that hasn't impressed so far?
Well,
I
the
don't know.
Texans are 0-2. The Jaguars
Texans are 0-2. Wow.
Jaguars are mid. The who else is in that division?
Titans.
Titans are pretty bad. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely possible. I think we'd already penciled them in. Oh, maybe we had the Jaguars ahead of them actually, but they're all pretty low. So I think
I
the
had
Texans
buried
were,
them. I might have given them
yeah,
3 wins this year.
yeah,
So
yeah.
uh
You're very low.
unless they go 1-14, I think Ag is on my side. um, but it could be a Saints situation where they were gangbusters the first 2 weeks and then it falls apart.
Right.
Um, Kind of a
This
fun
should have been one
story
of our
though.
hot takes.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
Colts are going to dominate the AFC South.
yeah, we should release a short and try to like backdate it to make it look like it was
There you go.
a well-timed take here. Anyway, one more matchup that we really wanted to give the spotlight to, and that was the first of the Monday Night Football doubleheader. This was a Bucks romp over the Texans. Just kidding. Not even close. It was a 1 point game. Bucks 20, Texans 19. Bucks don't steal a game, but they win on that last play, just edging the Texans out for glory, but not without a cost. Their offensive tackle, Luke Gedeke, just extended earlier this offseason, if I'm not mistaken, is going to miss
Yep.
multiple weeks. Yeah, I feel like 1 or 2 weeks ago we talked about Gedeke. He will
Yeah.
miss multiple weeks, and then their defensive tackle Kalijah Cansey will miss the season with a torn pectoral muscle. So a couple costly absences for the Buccaneers, but they are able to pull out a win against an opponent who, I think going into the season we expected to be right about at their level. Maybe now we revisit how we view the Texans based on their performance the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at the score, they lose here by 1. They lose to the Rams by 5 last week, 14 to 9, I think was the score there.
Mm-hmm.
But what's more telling to me is not the score, because if you look at the score, you say, "Oh, this is two good teams they played and two close games they lost." But the execution by the Texans offense has been pretty dreadful so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense has done a great job. Will Anderson and I believe they added Danielle Hunter on that line up front
Mm-hmm.
this summer. Their pass rush has looked awesome for most of the first 2 weeks. Secondary, of course, Derek Stingley is the big name there, but they have other guys there that are talented too. I think their defense is doing the job. You hold another team to 14 or 20 good teams, you did your job for the most part. Like that's pretty good in modern day NFL. But your offense putting up 14 and 19 points respectively is not going to be enough. And CJ Stroud, after having a great rookie year, had a sophomore slump last year, has not looked great this year. Worth mentioning, their offensive line looks terrible. It looks really bad. And their offensive line looking really bad does not help the fact that starting running back Joe Mixon, of course, on IR to start the season. So they have relied on Nick Chubb, Dario Gumbawale, Damian Pierce, and those guys. We love Nick Chubb, great guy, obviously older, coming off that serious injury. That with a kind of mediocre at best offensive line means your run game doesn't exist, which means the defense can drop back every time, making it very hard on your quarterback to do the right thing, make the right plays, the right throws, etc. Had a couple of good moments. Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, rookie, I think, had a couple of okay plays, but yeah, overall, the offense has looked anemic. That's the word I'll use for it.
Yeah, I feel like in the mainstream sort of football media, right, you've got shows like the Athletic Football Show that are a little nitty grittier. But in the mainstream, I feel like we'd be talking about the Texans as having a potentially generational set of defensive talent right now if the offense was making this team a spotlight team. The offense is not doing that right now. I feel like the Texans are sort of being, uh, sort of put into this mediocre camp despite having an elite unit because of the way the offense has underperformed. And I swear about 90% of this game was 14 to 10 Bucks. And it was only in that very last kind of sequence of the game. If you recall what I'm referring to, where it was just that sort of like morass for like most of the third and fourth quarter, where
Hmm.
I was like, this game is just destined to end with this score. There was a missed field goal. And then, yeah, the Texans came alive late, but it wasn't enough. And I felt like the home crowd was pretty vocal for the Texans in this game. I feel like I could hear them pretty consistently on the broadcast, but weren't able to take advantage of home field. You're sad with these injuries if you're the Bucks, but this is their sixth. They are the sixth team since 1970 to go 2-0 5 years in a row. Obviously, you don't get bonus points for that, but it is nice to see their team that can consistently start strong, and they do so again this year. They may not have looked like world beaters, but there's a will, there's a way, and they've put themselves in a position to succeed, scoring the game-winning touchdown in the very last moments of this game. So nice,
Happy for
exciting end.
Baker.
Love Baker, man. Baker's a great
He's
player.
been that drive was great. It was like willpower by Baker Mayfield to
Yeah, I
get them down the
I
field.
I love Baker. I am so excited to be Lions Bucks. I'm so excited to be at that game. I think I want to see Baker live. I think I believe week 2 last year the Bucks beat us, right? On route to their
Hmm.
2-0 streak. Just a really scrappy team, and Baker's one of those guys where, maybe he will never get them to a Super Bowl, but I feel like when we look back on this era of ball, Baker's one of those names that I'll think back on super fondly, just because
Hmm.
the way he plays is so much fun, and he's got such a football spirit. And I think they should bring back the commercials where he lived in the stadium. I thought those were good
Mm.
commercials.
Those are the Browns days.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if Tampa is cool with that, if cool with Baker staying around. Yeah, he was scrambling when there was nothing going on for his receivers, getting downfield. Kind of looked like he got hurt, and then he got right back up and was like, "No, no, no, we got to go win this game." Um, haven't heard anything since then. If he did suffer some sort of injury, but yeah, you love the grit and heart of a player like that. Also, just threw a couple of just beautiful passes to Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka that was like, oh, it's right over the defender's hands, right into the receiver's kind of pocket to catch.
Yeah.
So
I'd say
great
one too
game
many
from him.
touchdowns for Egbuka in this game for my liking. But that's okay. Uh, Egbuka being, of course, an opposing wide receiver for me in fantasy, but Baker being on my fantasy team, I get to root for him every week, and I love that. Now, let's go to the games that we're just gonna smooth over with our one sentence recaps, and then after that recap, any major plays or injuries that we just super briefly want to highlight in stream here. Do you want to start with this game, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Darn it. I have nothing to say. Let me figure it out.
Okay, I'll
Uh,
start. Two teams that both don't want Russell Wilson anymore, but both of their quarterbacks are worse than Russell Wilson. Battle
that's a
it
great
out.
one. That's a great one. Yeah. I love that. That was awesome. And also so true. They are not dangerous at the quarterback position. Nicely done.
Seahawks, Steelers, 31-17 Seahawks. Important play from this one, of course, the thing that most people are talking about, rookie running back for the Steelers, Caleb Johnson, totally forgetting what the kickoff rules are and allowing the ball to roll into the end zone, but it doesn't roll out the back of the end zone. So a Seahawks player fell on it for a touchdown. And that was really the end of the game. Like the Steelers were losing just by a little bit. They still had a shot. And then this was like, oh, there's another 7 points in like what is it, the late third or early fourth quarter this happened. Tough. And Mike Tomlin is a no nonsense kind of guy, so I imagine that will probably affect him going forward. I actually think that Tomlin already said he's probably not going to be on the kickoffs this upcoming week.
Yeah. Tough beat for him for sure. It was kind of debated. I couldn't really tell from watching the recording whether he actually made contact with the ball on that
It was
play.
close.
In the new kickoff rules, it is required if the ball lands the landing zone to be downed by the opposing team or the receiving team, excuse me. So whether it touches his hands or not, he should have put hands on the ball. If it wasn't going to go out of bounds, he was required to down it himself. So whether he touched it or not, mistaken play, unfortunately. Couple quick injuries: defensive lineman Isaiah Loudermilk and linebacker Alex Highsmith both expected to or already declared out for week 3.
Those are some good names.
Yeah,
Loudermilk? That's crazy.
Loudermilk. And there are 2 H's in Isaiah. That is not a typo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's a choice.
it's interesting to me. It catches the eye. And I applaud the uniqueness. All right. Rams 33, Titans 19. Every time I checked the score, I had a reason to believe in the Titans until like the fourth quarter. And then I was just disappointed. I want the Titans to win a stupid game because I want to believe in the Titans so bad. Why? You played the Broncos close, and then you played the Rams close until you didn't. Ah, it hurts my soul.
Hmm.
Not really a one-liner. I'm just upset. Uh,
Sure.
my one-liner is Cam, please ward off the bad vibes.
Ah, there you
I
go.
There you go. I
That's
I
great.
want I want it. I want to root for the Titans. They're kind of my AFC team. Obviously growing up in Tennessee. A couple quick polls from this game. You informed me of Cam Ward's insane throw, dodging pressure, weaving, and then just a cross-body throw that hung in the air for about, I don't know, 12 seconds before dropping perfectly into the hands of, what's this guy's name? It's a bit of a unique name as
Alec
well.
Aomanor.
Yeah. Super beautiful play back when the game was close and hope was real. Couple quick injuries. Rams corner Akello Witherspoon goes to IR with a broken clavicle. And Coach Sean McVay tore his plantar fascia on the sideline that's in his foot. He'll be fine. He'll be at games, but just kind of a funny one to come out of the game.
It would be Sean McVay because he is like so animated.
Yep.
He would do something a little too much.
The
Yeah, that throw
jumping
by
just
Cam Ward, I
nuts.
literally texted you and was like, that might be the best throw I've seen in a long time. I'm like, that was a crazy throw.
Yeah, that was a great. I mean, it was an awesome play, and I think if you're a Titans fan, Ward's had you competitive in both of these games for much of the game.
For teams that are
Okay.
supposed to be much better than you. So
Yeah. I mean, I actually had the Rams defense in fantasy for this reason this week, and I think I'll hold on to them. But uh, they definitely outperformed what I thought the Titans offense would be, to the point where I'm not comfortable just streaming the defenses that will play them.
hmm.
Uh, Yay Titans! Next game, let's do it.
Next game, Bills 30, Jets 10. Are the Jets cooked? Because they just got cooked by James Cook, who ran all
Nice.
over them.
All
Uh,
right.
Yeah, he was killing them. I think a lot of people will complain about Josh Allen's mediocre fantasy week, but it's because he just really didn't need to do anything. They just hand the ball off. I'm like, all right, go crazy. Their secondary, kind of scary. The other guys, not that much. So they had a lot of progress there, and the Jets offense looked pretty miserable. So it was just like, yeah, let's run the clock out and get out of here. All business.
Um, yeah. I think this result is disappointing for those of us excited by who the Jets could be. And yeah, definitely recalibrates expectations after what looked like a potentially franchise narrative shifting week one, where this team went from boring to explosive overnight, back to boring. Um, did you mention Ed Oliver's injury and I totally missed it?
I did not. Ed Oliver was injured his ankle and is going to be out for several weeks for the Bills. Very good defensive tackle for them, so hopefully he comes back well. And also, have the Bills have won the turnover battle for 24 consecutive games, an NFL record.
That's the recipe for winning football right there. Um, Bills rolling, no letdown game after that week one electric matchup with the Falcons, or wow, the Ravens.
Different
Yeah,
bird.
different bird. Different bird. I'd say also different quality of team. Uh, okay, I'll take the next one here.
Yeah.
Jaguars 27, Bengals 31. What is Browning? Is it what your cookies do when you probably should have taken them out of the oven a couple minutes ago? Is it completely botching the franchise quarterback position over and over and over again? No. It's the name of the backup quarterback who came in for Joe Burrow and rallied the Bengals past a Jaguars team that saw the lead and decided it didn't want it anymore. Tough. Can't give away a potential road win for a Jaguars team that, yes, won their first game of the season. But when you have a chance to play a team with its backup quarterback, you got to make the most. Alas, no dice. Bengals obviously now going to have to start Browning their first round pick, Shamar Stewart, who they decided to pay at the 11 and a half hour. Now doubtful for week 3 with an injured ankle as well.
Yeah, I believe the game-winning touchdown was a Jake Browning QB sneak, which was crazy.
Oh yeah, the leap over the line, the
Yeah.
the, the classic, and it's the kind of athleticism we've come to expect from Jake Browning. So
Of course, we're well versed in Jake Browning's athleticism here
yeah,
on 22
yeah.
man game.
I like to think of myself as one of those football fans who thinks about how athletic Jake Browning is 2 to 3 times a week.
Sure.
Um, anyway, unless you have any more Jake takes,
Yeah,
let's move on.
here we go. Here's my hot take one-liner for you for this game. 49ers 26, Saints 21. Did Mac Jones and Spencer Rattler just secure their spots as starters for the rest of the season? They both looked pretty good in this game,
Wow.
which I was surprised by. Now, pretty good maybe is an overstatement for Mac Jones. He made a couple of nice touchdown throws specifically, but there definitely were times where I was like, well, that went right over that player's head, or something where he missed clear throws that should have been made. But I was more surprised by Spencer Rattler. I think he looked pretty competent this whole game. I know we talked a lot about the Niners, their injuries, their defense, that they lost a lot of people in the offseason, but still a unit with respect, I think. And Spencer Rattler held his own in a mostly competitive football game. A couple of things to mention. 49ers guard Ben Bartch going to be out multiple games with a high ankle sprain, another 49ers injury. Kyle Juszczyk, one of the only fullbacks left in football on concussion protocol. And Saints defensive tackle Vernon Broughton will be out for the season as well.
Um, yeah, epic. This game was very thinly on my radar, so I'm glad you took the one-liner. Otherwise, I was going to have to talk about Ricky Pearsall on my fantasy team. Interested to hear Rattler's doing well, but that to be a good development for the Saints. Find it
I
hard to
can't say that
believe
was the case last week, but this week
yeah,
it was pretty good.
find it hard to believe Mac could overtake Brock, but at least for
What
these
if,
weeks of injury,
okay, hear me out. What if Browning and the Bengals starts to fumble and they like trade Mac Jones over there for like a fifth round pick?
that'd be crazy.
Like, here's your starter.
I kind of feel like though I believe in Browning because I think he was the starter in like 2023 when they were banged
He
up. I don't
was. He was, yeah.
know. I honestly
He,
like. I would
he
probably
made
if
some
I'm the
throws in that
Saints.
game that were like,
Yeah, did he have 3 picks? I read or heard that he had 3 picks in this game. I don't know.
maybe. I don't know.
I feel like if I'm the Saints, I'd probably rather have Jake Browning than Spencer Rattler. But
That's fair.
I don't know. At least he wins. But uh, I thought of this one in advance, and I had it ready for one of two teams. So let's see if I can land the ship here.
Here we go.
Browns 17, Ravens 41. This game was brought to you by Google Gemini's predictive AI modeling because sometimes some things in life are pretty predictable. Uh, Ravens slaughtering the Browns, not a shock. Was I looking for one? Of course, it would have been fun. We didn't get one. You sent me this tweet. This is insane. Lamar Jackson, now the all-time leader in passer rating, edging out Aaron Rodgers by 0.05 all time with a passer rating of 102.65, and also has the most rushing yards of any QB of all time.
Which has already been the case, but
yeah, of course. This happens to make Lamar Jackson actually a very good player in many respects. And I think
this guy's a good player. I don't know if you know.
This guy's good.
I love that they released this stat because both of those players are still active, so those numbers will shift. So it's
right.
funny.
I will say I would expect that I don't believe Aaron Rodgers will be ending the season with a 103.
You don't think he's going to reclaim the passer rating title?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. No, I think it's really interesting because Lamar to me feels a little bit like who in the NBA? Maybe he's like a Jokic. I don't know because Jokic, everyone's like, yeah, well, Jokic is like the best player in the NBA right now. I feel like Lamar is playing out of his freaking mind. But it's still like, oh, but Mahomes is probably the best quarterback playing right now. Or you get the Burrow truthers, right?
It's like a super consistent but underrated star.
Yeah. Lamar is if Zion was healthy, both super athletic, super high. No, stupid. Maybe it's like maybe it's a bad comp, but I think a little bit of like, Giannis, right, has a reputation in the NBA.
Giannis is the name I thought of when you said Jokic. I started thinking, and I was like, who would it be? And I thought Giannis. I think the difference is Lamar's always been on pretty talented teams.
Yeah. I think just as players, both do things that are so insane, just like athletically and just as players, like they're so upper echelon. But I think we kind of got fatigued from how insane they were, right? I feel like there was a period where Giannis was
started taking it for granted.
Right. I wonder if that's what we're doing with Lamar in a way that never seems to happen with Mahomes because he always pairs it with the winning, right? Um, couple little
I've been fatigued on that for a while, but that's just me.
Oh, me too. Oh, well, I get to deliver that little note in a
Yeah.
couple games here, but just a couple quick hitters. Kyle Van Noy, former Detroit Lions second round linebacker selection, and Ravens leading pass rusher, likely to miss multiple games, including Monday night against those Lions. Shedeur Sanders, third string quarterback for the Browns behind the GOAT and Joe Flacco.
Uh-huh.
Is um he apparently declined to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens in the fifth round. If I read correctly, 3 picks before the Browns selected him. He wanted the chance to start, knew he wouldn't get that with the Ravens. Currently isn't getting that with the Browns, but in his defense, he probably has a clearer path to it in Cleveland than
Yeah,
he would
it was
ever in
like,
Baltimore,
yeah, you
right?
have 10 years until you can start over here.
Yeah. If it's and especially honestly, I can't remember if the signing came before or after the draft, but Cooper Rush, signed by the Ravens, pretty solid backup. I don't really, I
Hmm.
think he'd be a QB3 either way, but I think when you're, with the Browns at least, I think it's probably only a matter of time before he's effectively QB2 when they decide Flacco's time and the sun is done.
Right. That checks out. Next game, Panthers 22, Cardinals 27. Did you know onside kicks exist in the NFL still? This game had a successful onside kick. I feel like it's been so long since I've seen a successful onside kick. And it made the game fun at the end because it was like, oh, they got the onside kick. There's a chance. But then the Panthers, so of course that didn't amount to anything. But fun tension nonetheless. Worth mentioning Panthers guard Robert Hunt and center Austin Corbett both go to IR. Hunt has torn bicep and Corbett has torn MCL. So those guys are gone for a long time, meaning the Panthers' offensive line is back in shambles, as it has been for most of Bryce
Indeed.
Young's young career. And that's unfortunate. I feel like when I was watching this game, tuning into it, it was a lot of like, yep, that guy's running around for his life. That looks about right. And that's about it. Cardinals starting corners Max Melton, Garrett Williams, and Will Johnson were all injured. Timelines TBD on them. I wanted to say this last week and I forgot. My Will Johnson Defensive Rookie of the Year take is looking pretty good. He's looked really good in 2 games with that team, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, hopefully we get him back soon to continue making a difference. I thought it was kind of funny. This game was off my radar, but Um, it's actually nice the Lions play Monday night because it means I can really just dial in on doing the quad box for most of the week. But they just traded like units, like, okay, we're gonna destroy your interior offensive line and you can destroy our corners, right? It's just like entire position rooms, just like erased. Because I was looking up injuries and then I found an article and it was like, yeah, all three of the Cardinals starting corners are now injured. So I was like, awesome, that's great. Um, okay, next game. Eagles 20, Chiefs 17. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Damon, but there are a select few people in my life who I view as some sort of funhouse mirror of myself, where I find them to be more attractive, more interesting, more personable than me. And I build a resentment for these people. Maybe they don't deserve it, but I loathe that these people are somehow a stronger image of me.
Mhm.
And this game feels like watching two people I feel that way about succeed near each other for like the eighth time in 2 weeks. Um, God, I don't care. Eagles are good. We know. Chiefs are good. We know. You've been glorifying them on national television since before I was a thought to exist in this world. I don't need to watch them play again and pretend that it is a Super Bowl rematch for the ages where we are putting these players on glorious pedestals and viewing them as the tent poles of a generation. Icky. Ugh. End
That's a
of
great
take.
noise. Great onomatopoeia by you. Worth mentioning, I think, the 2-0 Eagles have narrowly edged out victories over the Chiefs, 0-2 Chiefs, and the Cowboys, who I don't think are a great team. Despite being 2-0 and not throwing the football ever, they don't look that good. They just happen to be 2-0.
I do agree with that. I don't think either of these teams. This didn't feel like a matchup between two teams playing at 100% to a stalemate.
This was not Giants Cowboys.
Certainly not. Two teams at the height of their powers. Um, but I do appreciate you throwing a Bam Adebayo reference into our pod, of course. Legendarily
Oh, yeah,
nicknamed
yeah,
the
yeah.
Onomatopoeia, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, what are
Yeah,
you talking about?
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, that
What's
nickname
Bam
just
Adebayo's real name?
um. Oh, it's something that has nothing to do with Bam, I think.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Bam.
I've heard it too. It's like, oh, because
So
I
it's
feel
the
like, did he play in the Olympic team? Because I feel like this was a bit at the Olympic team where they went around asking all the
yes,
players what is his
yes.
actual first name. It's something really generic, like Michael, isn't it? I
It
know it's not
sure is
Michael, but
not. It's not generic at all.
oh, um,
His first name is Adris.
Adris, Adris Bam Adebayo, of course. Um, how did he get the Bam thing? Was it just because he didn't he go around like Bam Bam? Didn't they name him that
Yeah,
after
it was like a
Flintstones or something?
Flintstone thing as a kid. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Flintstone is kind of a tough thing to have your nickname drawn on. I think I
Hmm.
wouldn't want to be Flintstone themed as an individual. But
Fair.
uh, fun fact: the brother of the Eagles kicker went to Vanderbilt, lived in my dorm freshman year. So that's your. And
Great.
speaking of Vanderbilt, because you brought up Vanderbilt, uh, college football news: Vanderbilt ranked number 20 in the country right now, and
Wow.
that is exciting.
Yeah,
Uh,
they beat South Carolina, right?
yeah, and it really kind of wasn't that close. Granted, Lenora Sellers, the sort of highly touted quarterback for South Carolina, going out in the second quarter, but honestly, Vanderbilt was carving up their defense all night, and it was a lot of fun. Um, Go Doors! Please give us the rundown on the best primetime game of the week.
Monday Night Football, 9 p.m. Chargers 20, Raiders 9. Are you still awake? Are you still watching? That's that's the headline for this snoozer of a game that started way too late. And I don't think it happens again for the rest of the season at this specifically late time. But ultimately, the Raiders' offense pretty lackluster. The Chargers really look like they're clicking, especially in the passing game. Defense looked pretty good too. Khalil Mack had a really bad elbow injury where it got wedged between his teammate as he was going for a tackle. He exited the game, carted off, golf carted off, not carted off, and then came back with like an arm brace, not in his uniform anymore. So timeline TBD on that one, but it looked ugly. So naturally, they showed it on the broadcast 7 times in a row.
Geno Smith trying to figure out how many picks he has to throw before people finally stop watching. Uh, and three wasn't enough because I was watching until the last 2 minutes. Thanks for not throwing to Brock, Gino. All right.
Didn't look healthy, by the way. Brock Bowers still looked a little banged up with that knee.
Yeah, I knew I was taking a risk keeping him in there, but hopefully he is back fully. I think they need at least one premier pass catcher to break that offense open. They did not look.
And his name is Michael Mayer.
I'm okay. Maybe I'll drop Dawson Knox and add Michael Mayer and just have a Raiders tight end room on my fantasy team. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, that is the contests from week 2, big and small. Couple blowouts, couple close, exciting games. I'd say overall, pretty darn good week of football on balance.
Yeah, it's time to preview week 3, baby.
I'm excited for these wheels. I want to know where we're going to be here.
Yeah, let me throw on the old screen share of my background and then replace it with the wheel. Can you see the wheel, Mr. Jared?
Yes.
Who spun first last week? Me, I think, because I think I did you week 1. So I
Yeah.
think we're going back to you first on the wheel this time. Let's see who you're paying attention to in week 3 of NFL football.
It's funny
It
if it's
will
the
be.
Ravens. Ooh,
Oh, you weren't far off. Hey, why don't you pay attention to that
it's
quarterback of
still
yours?
still slow. It's still so slow. Okay. Tampa
On
Bay
Yeah,
Buccaneers.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Bit of a disappointing land because I'm trying to actually watch other teams like I want. I want to watch teams that I probably wasn't going to be watching anyway. And of course, I just spent a full game watching Tampa play Houston, but that's all right. I have no idea who their opponent is. Let me go back to
It's the
our list.
Jets.
Shit.
The Todd Bowles Bowl.
The Bulls Bowl. The Jets, we care about Justin Fields.
If he
So that's
plays.
something. If you, that's right. Hey, I care about Tyrod Tate. Oh, whatever, man. Okay. At least I'll be able to focus on
Congratulations.
the Bucks. Yeah. All right.
After getting the Raiders in week one, and then they played the Patriots, and then I got the Patriots in week two, who played the Dolphins. Let's see if I get the Dolphins in week three and continue the
Dolphins
streak.
time, baby.
That
Dolphins
would
time.
be really funny. It's not going to happen. I instead get to watch the greatness that is Samuel Darnold play
Ooh.
NFL football against the New Orleans Saints. Oh man, what a bad game.
You can't escape
Ah,
the bottom five teams. You are just a bottom five
that's
team merchant right now.
that's yeah. Okay. This is the good thing. It's the 3 o'clock slot. So I can still focus on games that matter in the noon slot. And I'm missing out on Broncos Chargers at 3. I mean, I'll still have it on my other screen probably, but the other games at the 3 o'clock slot I don't really care about. So I'm not that mad about this.
That is kind of misery, though. I'm so sorry. The nice thing is because it's 3:05, hopefully the game ends and then you can catch the end of like Cowboys, Bears, Cardinals, Niners, and give them a little more attention. But
Right.
yeesh. Hopefully eventually you'll get like a run of Rams, Ravens, Bills, and you can watch some real ball.
I mean, the Seahawks are a good team, I think. They're just playing one of the worst teams in the
Yeah,
NFL this
yeah.
week. So
I mean,
that's
hey,
the
same here.
uh,
Yikes. As we talked about before we started, not a lot of games this week that are strongly worth circling on the
mhm.
schedule, I think. Do you want to take first crack here?
Yeah, for sure. I will steal off the board. I'm not going to steal Lions Ravens. I actually won't do that to you.
Thank you.
Um, I, I am actually interested in, you know what, I'll say Texans Jaguars because the Texans are 0-2 and the
Okay. Okay.
Jaguars are kind of looking okay. They barely lost against the Bengals team, granted without Joe Burrow for most of the game, and they did win in week one. So this would be a huge pivot point early on in the AFC South race if the Jags can go up 2-1, the Texans fall to 0-3. I think the Texans really need to bounce back strong, especially on the offensive end, like I talked about earlier, in order to kind of salvage a season that already looks pretty dire.
I actually think it's a great sleeper pick. We hadn't talked about that one before, but that's a good point. I think that the Texans are the kind of 0-2 team that I don't think has the firepower to recover from going 0-3. It's not like they're out of whack or they have an injury that's causing them. No, they're just kind of like they're looking 0-2 right now. So
Hmm.
nice pick. And low key, I think a nice pick too, because the Jaguars, I think, have looked probably better than we expected, at least in terms of being competitive in week two, nearly beating the Bengals and then handling Panthers week one. So, yeah, the Jags are 2-1. They're a fun AFC South sleeper alongside the Colts. And if the Texans go to 0-3, we might be kissing the Texans season goodbye and maybe looking in a different direction offensively. So, um, I'll take Lions Ravens because you left it for me. This is the Monday night game. I think this is undeniably uh, a top two matchup of the week, if not the matchup
America's
of the
game
week.
of the week.
America's game of the. They just pick a random game. I swear this week it's gonna be
Yes, yes,
it's gonna
they
be like
do.
Broncos. Like Broncos Chargers is okay. We should probably talk about it, but like would I go game of the week? No. Lions Ravens. The Lions again, week one, looking weak against the Packers. Turn it around. Turn on the Jets. I'm going to be looking for them to get a faster start against a Ravens squad that the last time these two teams played dismantled the Lions, even though they were already on their way to being a new age team. I do think the Lions have strength in run defense, which might be a good matchup against the Ravens. Obviously, Ravens 1-1 right now, but probably the best 1-1 team in the league, or comparable with Detroit perhaps. And this will be a great matchup to to be a good heat check for these powers. If the Lions can come in, play the Ravens close, or even take this game outright, I think the Lions have firmly said, "Hey, Week 1 was an aberration. We're here to stay." Um, if the Lions get drubbed by the Ravens, maybe we're looking at them as still having more to prove. But either way, two high flying offenses, two defenses loaded with talents, including the highest paid safety in the league and the former highest paid safety in the league, and Kyle Hamilton and Kirby Joseph. I think this is just a star-studded matchup all over both rosters, and I hope it delivers on being a really fun, exciting game with fireworks on both sides.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the defensive talent and the offensive talent. Both of these teams just absolutely destroyed their matchups in week 2. So coming in with a lot of momentum here in what I think will be the best game of the week, no doubt. I will take Broncos Chargers since you mentioned it. AFC West matchup, divisional matchups, always a little more important, like I mentioned for Texans Jaguars. The Chargers have looked like the best team in the AFC West so far this season. I think
Mm-hmm.
we both had them third after the Raiders in our preseason rankings. And they have looked like number one, beating the Chiefs in week 1. And I mean, the Raiders in week 2 is not a great match, but they do look like they're executing well. Justin Herbert looks like he is leading this offense well. Broncos defense, after a great week 1, had a very, very suspect week 2 against the Colts. So, what will they look like against a team that has had a very good passing attack so far? What will the Broncos offense look like against the Chargers defense that I think is doing better than people expected so far? Bo Nix, bad game in week 1, good game in week 2. What does week 3 look like? I think this is a important matchup for both teams. Chargers to maintain their momentum, and Broncos similarly to how you said for the Lions week 1 aberration against not the Bears, the Packers. The Broncos perhaps a week 2 aberration against the Colts, and they get back on track if they can manage a win here.
Yeah, I think if the Chargers win this game solidly, they set themselves up to be consistently viewed as a top 3 team in the AFC going forward. The Bengals, obviously, without Joe Burrow, falling out of that conversation. The Texans, not looking to be near full power, um, and not getting a ton of other sleepers from the other divisions. If they can firmly beat the Broncos, I think you're talking Ravens, Bills are the clear 1 and 2, and then the Chargers might be the third best team in the AFC right now, with everyone else chasing behind, and the only two challengers for that coming out of their division in the Chiefs and Broncos potentially. Although I don't know, maybe the Colts have the best offense in the AFC. Who knows? I don't think so, but you never know. Yeah, good pick there. I'll take Rams Eagles Sunday at noon. I think this is the marquee game of that sort of noon time slot. Looking here, um, I think the Rams hung in against the Texans. It was close. Took a while to pull away from the Titans. I think that's okay. I feel like the Rams. I just kind of feel like they're a team that kind of gets better as the season goes along, and they just sort of find their groove. The Eagles have not looked like world beaters at all. This was a matchup last year in the playoffs that caused a lot of excitement. And I could absolutely see this being another kind of marquee matchup between two NFC powers. And I think the winner of this team will rightly earn a good amount of clout moving forward. Uh, Obviously, the Rams and Eagles are both 2-0. So the winner of this game probably puts them in a pretty good position going forward this season. And the loser doesn't have to feel terrible about what happens. But if the Eagles lose this game, I think it's going to reframe some of the context around their narrow win against the Cowboys, narrow win against the Chiefs. If they win this game, I think they can kick that narrative to the curb for another few weeks.
Yeah, two teams that have had basically all gutted out victories so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
Close contest, down to the wire, lots of defense or lack thereof of offense from the opponents. And my hot take, I think the Rams will win. I think they'll come out of this on top. I don't know why. I don't know
Wow.
why I think that. They just feel like they've looked better to me. And the Eagles are going to beat them like 35-12, and I'm going to look like an idiot. So,
I don't know. I kind of think you have a point. I mean, when I look at two teams that have been sort of like, I kind of, or like, good, but not great, right? I look for is there a unit that is blown up? And the Rams hung 33 on the Titans. So I don't know. I think you're onto something. Any other games that you want
That's
to?
that's the last one. You took the last one that I really wanted to highlight. So
Yeah, this is kind. I'll be honest. This is after week one and week two had at least I would say maybe 5 or 6 surefire fun games. This is not the most
a
exciting
little
week.
bit of a snooze this week.
A little bit, a little bit.
So
One
the other
liners.
games that are not the wheel games or the games that we have highlighted, one-liner time.
Uh,
Who's
do
first?
you want to go first on this one, or
Sure, I will go first with our Thursday night matchup, Dolphins at Bills. It's not cold outside yet, but does Tua play well in New York? Probably not. Bills win.
yeah? Um, Colts Titans. The battle between two AFC South teams I thought wouldn't matter. One of them working hard to prove me wrong. The other one working hard to prove me right. Will the script get flipped this week? I think there's a chance, but if not, Daniel Jones, comeback player of the year.
Mm.
I think you
Been
talked about
spec-
that last week. I
I
think
did. I did.
there's it
And
might
then
be a
he had
budding
another
narrative.
great week.
Yeah, he did. There's something there.
I think you skipped this one. Bengals Vikings.
Oh, I did. I'm so sorry. I totally did. Yep.
It's okay. Battle of the backups. And one of whom is a career backup, one of whom was a highly touted draft pick who almost won MVP and then fell off the face of the earth pretty quickly after that. Who can lead their team to victory?
Um. Okay, I'll take Raiders Commanders.
Yeah.
If you told me this was the first time that the Raiders and Commanders were playing against each other in the history of the National Football League, I think I'd believe you. Let's see if Geno Smith can play well enough to make Marcus Mariota good enough for one week.
Don't say that. I have Jayden Daniels. Don't say that. I want him to play. He hasn't been
Well,
ruled
sorry.
out
Let me
yet,
let me
okay?
let me let me append something to that. Let's see if Geno Smith can play poorly enough to make Marcus Mariota look good enough for one week, regardless of whether or not he's in the starting lineup.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's very helpful. Falcons Panthers. Will the Falcons standout defensive performance continue against a Panthers team that just suffered multiple offensive line injuries, and they can carry that momentum going forward to perhaps keep on the tail of the Buccaneers for the NFC South?
Um, okay, Steelers, Patriots. Um, it is a legendary surefire Hall of Famer against a second year quarterback. Will Aaron Rodgers look like the better player? I don't know. Drake may.
Ah, that was good. That was really good. I liked that from you a lot.
Thanks. Thanks.
Packers at Browns. How long before the fans start booing?
Nice. That's great. That's succinct and accurate. Um, Cowboys, Bears. This looked like a feisty matchup when the Bears looked feisty. Then week one began. The Bears are bad.
So true.
um, okay, yeah.
Okay. Cardinals at 49ers.
Is that it? Is that just the sigh? Is
I think so.
yeah.
Just
Um,
a whatever of a game right there.
yeah. This might be the one divisional matchup that shows up twice a year where I'm like, I feel like the game itself might be interesting, but the intrigue between the two teams just doesn't exist. Like I just
Yeah.
don't um that storied battle between Cardinals and Niners.
Feels like the
Um
Cardinals are just different from the rest of the division. Like they just aren't actually in the NFC West like the other three teams in the NFC West.
yeah. Yeah, I mean like the Rams, Niners and
Seahawks.
other team Seahawks, yeah, sorry, are just so consistently solid that it's hard to look at them that way. By the way, Cardinals Panthers, that was an NFC championship game like 7 years ago, right? Like Cardinals
Hmm.
Panthers, that's crazy that game that looked so anonymous last week was like, oh yeah, this is a divisional battle. Anyway, I've got the last game here. Chiefs, Giants. Ah, yes. Russell Wilson will have to teach Patrick Mahomes how to throw the deep ball again, just like we all expected in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Dangerous and Malik are, I think, what the Chiefs hoped that they had returning to their offense, but certainly no dice so far. Epic. Epic. Oh,
Great.
God. That's actually, I've got one more one liner for this.
Yes.
Chiefs, Giants. This is Sunday Night Football?
That's yeah.
Yikes.
Patrick Mahomes goes against future face of the league, Jack's current old player, Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Current legend Patrick Mahomes goes against former third best quarterback in the league. Yeah, tough. Tough. Um, please think Abdul Carter matters enough to watch this game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one too.
I'm sure it'll be an instant classic just because we said that, right?
Mm.
Um,
I feel like the Chiefs are the team that maybe play the most down to their competition.
I feel like this year, especially, they are playing right at the level of their foe. That's a great take, actually. Um, I mean, are we entering a world where the Chiefs stink? Like, is it possible that we've crossed some threshold? I don't know.
You know, Travis Kelce's going to be married soon. Just thinking about white picket fences and kids. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Um,
I can't wait for the Taylor Swift song about that. It's going to be awesome.
it's God, that's next album's going to be a heater. Um, I feel like you can't. She wrote like I thought her most recent album was like Tortured Poets Department. I feel like you can't push the whole like engaged to the football boy narrative and be like, I'm a tortured poet who's in love with the silly jock, and we're gonna go across the world in my private jet. It's like we conceive of torture differently. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't get over the Instagram caption of your English teacher and gym teacher getting married. That really threw me.
Um, what does that imply about how their relationships progressed? What was going on at the school? It's odd. Um, there was a kid in seventh grade who made fun of our teacher because I can't remember what the name of the teacher he was like he thought he was dating was, but he was like, ooh, Mr. Blank is in love with this teacher. And he was like, get out of the classroom. You can't say that stuff about me, blah, 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 blah. And he married her. So, you know,
He was right all
he
along.
was right. And you wouldn't believe who was the ring bearer. Not
Oh.
that kid. Uh, um, yeah, I don't know if I'd want to see the outcome of my English and gym teachers getting married. Whatever. Anyway, I can't wait for there to be. Is Mahomes going to be at the wedding? Am I going to have to see that? Is that going to be
Yeah,
something?
for sure. You're gonna see it via Jackson Mahomes, who's also invited to the wedding. So
There's no way, dude. Please, no. Golly. Um, I really want there to be like this is my fantasy, okay? Is we get photos of the wedding posted by Taylor and like the back is blurred, but someone re-enhances the image and Xavier Worthy has been given an invite to this wedding because Travis feels bad about him. And it's just
uh,
him in a cast sitting at like the table with all the aunts that neither of them want to talk to, and he's just like so pissed in the back of the venue. That's my wish casting for
they would have to get married pretty fast because he was questionable to play this week apparently. So I don't imagine he'll be in the cast too long.
that's probably fair. They've been kind of like, ooh, what if Taylor played the Super Bowl halftime show? They would totally get married during the Super Bowl halftime show. That just feels like it happened, you
That's
know?
insane. That's crazy.
I mean,
What
but
does that
wouldn't it
even mean?
happen though? It would be the most like insane moment since
The
the
most watched Super Bowl of all time,
since
specifically
the
during halftime.
yeah, the Justin Timberlake, I can't remember who he was performing with, but there was like the nip slip. That was pretty big.
Oh, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. Janet
Yeah.
Jackson?
I thought, is it Janet Jackson?
I think so.
That's what I
Came to
thought.
the brain. It's like a name I wouldn't have known otherwise. So
Who, like, I always think Janet Jackson wasn't like Jackson 5 related, right? Like a different person doing a different thing.
couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell
Cool.
you.
You know what I could tell
I'm
you?
an ethical ball knower, not a Janet Jackson knower, okay?
Um, Fair. If Janet Jackson played in the WNBA, you'd know. Okay, stupid. Let's go for an overtime field goal with no time left to sneak past Russell Wilson and the Giants here. Once again, I'll say it every time because I feel like it's not getting through some people's nogs here. Like, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating. Find us on YouTube, find us on Spotify. There's a visual component, there's an auditory component, and all of it is balling, specifically ethical balling. That's
That's a boom. That's a
that's
big
a
boom.
we bring the boom. I think that's something we want our fans to know is regardless
That's
we
what we
bring them.
do.
Yeah.
We bring the boom, we bring the boom to you.
Yeah, you can see our boom in the uh, dumb, stupid ass, bad NFL parade ad that showed about 45 times on Sunday. Did you enjoy this ad as well?
I can't think of the ad you're talking about.
I feel
Every
like the
time the
AI
commercials came on, I just moused over my thing and muted it. And then it's
Oh,
like, I'll
there's
worry
like
about that later.
this float, and some of it's AI generated. I don't know how much. And then there's like a singing Raiders pug that's AI generated, and then the "We Bring the
Jesus
Boom" kid is
Christ.
it's a mess. I'll
Oh
send it to you.
my
It is an
God.
incarnate disaster.
That's
Um,
horrible. Yeah.
it's so bad, dude. Oh my gosh. Anyway, lining up for the kick now.
You gotta come back from Ford Field first. Of course, we know
Oh, of
field goals
course,
are
of course.
made in your home, it's not
As
at
a
Ford
as
Field.
opposed to, yeah. Let me make sure you
As a,
can't see the goalposts that are in my
right.
background. Let me just there we go. My
Looking
my
stellar.
my my home. It's getting there. I'm still not,
Yeah.
in the lion's claws yet.
I haven't bothered to order a light or anything yet, so I need to figure that out because I'm still just looking like this.
I will say my backdrop might be at a point where I can go without the Ford Field and feel okay. It's pretty neutral at this point. Um,
You gotta get all the Lions posters right behind you.
you'll see what I'm cooking in the closet. It's pretty sweet. You might see little Sonic holding a heart on the shelf back there. It's all dark, but
Yeah,
Sonic
yeah,
and
yeah.
Knuckles, of
That's
course,
that's huge. That's really big for you.
in a big spot. Okay, taking this field goal. All right, kick is up. I missed the thing. Hang on, and then I dropped it.
Offsides, 5 yard penalty.
Leverage.
Leverage, yeah. I didn't want to go leverage yet. Okay, the kick didn't even happen. I don't think I can go leverage yet.
Okay, here we go.
Wow. Based on your reaction of it flying off to the side of the screen, I'm gonna have to go with no good.